All right, fourth graders. Today we're going to look over our homework from yesterday. Then we're going to read chapter 3, do the chapter 3 page. Read chapter 4, do the chapter 4 page. And then for homework, you have chapter 3 and 4 questions, both sides. Let's start by looking at our homework. All right, so we had chapter 1. Little Willie and his grandfather owned a... What do you think, Zane? Potato. I think that's how you spell potato. Potato farm.
Potato.
Yeah. All right. Why did little Willie oversleep? In chapter 1, why, for that day, why did he oversleep? Camille?
Because his grandfather didn't wake him up, and grandfather usually wakes him.
Good. Grandfather did not wake up little Willie, and he usually does. It was talking about another time when he overslept. Is that what this question was asking us?
No.
It was asking about today. Why did little Willie oversleep today? Good. All right. What is little Willie's dog's name? Little Willie's got a dog. What's his name, Kateri? Searchlight. Do you know, did you catch why its name is Searchlight?
Because it has a spot right on
It has that spot, like that silver dollar right above his head. Good. All right. Doc Smith is an older woman. How could you tell? What kind of inferences could you make from the story that Doc Smith is an older woman? Ryan?
in the book it said, as she rubbed her wrinkle in his face.
It said Doc Smith had a wrinkly face. Awesome. What else did it tell us about Doc Smith? What else? Adam?
He had Snow White hair.
Doc Smith, Smith, also had snow white hair. Those are kind of the two big ones. Did you get something about her being older with her hair or her wrinkles? Those are the big ones. Anika?
Also, it says she wore a long black dress.
Well, I could wear a long black dress. Does that make me an old woman?
No, but it makes her a woman.
It makes her a woman. We want to know older woman. Specifically. You're right, but it tells us she's a woman. But we want to know why she's an older woman. Good. Way to read that. All right. What did Doc Smith say was wrong with grandfather? Something happened when Doc Smith came to investigate. What did they say was wrong? Rosie?
Just like they don't want to live here. It's like there's something wrong. I don't want to.
Good. So a full sentence answer might be something like Doc Smith said grandfather did not want to live. You don't need it word for word, but check your answer. Do you have a capital letter at the beginning? Is it a full sentence, not grandfather did not want to live? Do you have a full sentence answer, fourth grade friends? We're starting to get better at that. Keep working on that. It'll take you an extra minute, but it really helps us, okay? All right, and then we have chapter 2. Flip to chapter 2's page. All right. How old is little Willie? Oh, yeah, Thomas, can you give the first? How old is little Willie? Christian?
10.
Little Willie is 10. Good. So around our age, right? Around fourth grade age? Good. All right. Why did Doc Smith's horse take off? Remember in this chapter, Doc Smith's horse went off and she tried to hit the brake, but it wouldn't go. What caused her horse to take off? Maddie? Searchlight growled and barked. Good. So Doc Smith's best fourth grade answer you could give would be something like this. Doc Smith's horse. Do you see how I'm taking part of the sentence? Doc Smith's horse took off because Searchlight growled and barked. Do you see how we use part of the sentence in our answer, fourth graders? I'm going to be starting to look for that more, okay? All right. What happened that was almost like talking? Can you give me a full sentence answer? What happened that was almost like talking? Zane? Grandfather moved his hands to resemble no and Yes. Yeah, he used his hands to start to talk more.
And fingers.
All right. So what were the signals for these words? If grandfather's hungry, how does he tell little Willie? Brooke?
If he's hungry, he has one finger.
Hold on. One finger. Good. One finger. These ones can just be one-word answers, okay? Because it's not a full sentence. What about when he's thirsty? When he's thirsty. Isaac? Two fingers. Good. What about if he's saying no? He's saying no. Lizzie?
Calm down.
Calm down. Good. What about if he's saying yes? He's saying yes to it. Zach? Palm up. Good. Like it's to the ceiling and down. It's on the bed. Good. All right. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. What is a strong box? What did little Willie find there? So you should have two parts to this answer because there's two questions. Adam?
The strong box is like a safe and he found some letters.
Good. A strong box is like a safe, and he found. I'm having a tough time typing today. Found some letters. Good. Did he read the letters?
No.
Good. He didn't bother reading them. How did little Willie harvest the field? How did he get the field all harvested? Lily? Searchlight pulled the plow. Good. That helped dig it up. It would have been a lot longer if it would have been just little Willie.
That looks like steam.
Searchlight. All right. What do you think grandfather's worried about? Because remember we thought it was going to be the crop. But it's not the crop. What do we think he's going to be worried about? Lizzie?
I think he's worried about money because I think the letters in the strong box and Billy.
Might be worried about money because maybe the letters are about bills or things they owe. What else could grandfather be worried about? Monica?
I kind of think like maybe little Willie has to like go to an orphanage or something because he can't because he doesn't like have enough money or like he just can't do it anymore because he's getting too old, and so that's why he wants it.
So my grandfather's knowing he can't take care of little Willie, so he's kind of given up, so he goes to somewhere else. Maybe. Lily?
I disagree with Lizzie because when little Willie came in, he had the money. He said that he had so much money in his hands because someone bought the potatoes. I don't think it's good.
It's not related to money because he had some money. Okay. What else do you think, Zane?
Maybe it was Searchlight. The book said she was old, so she might die.
Maybe a Searchlight. He's worried about Searchlight dying. Remember how old is Searchlight? 10. In dog years, isn't that kind of a lot? 10 human years?
Yeah.
That's a lot, right? Nathan, what are you thinking? So back to the letter. Maybe it's an angry letter, so maybe it is about money if it was kept where the money should have been. Maybe. Well, Rosie?
I think it's a person who met because maybe he gave his money to this person and he like didn't owe any money to that person, so he was like a thief or a robber.
Oh, so maybe grandfather's not a good person?
No, grandfather's somebody else.
Oh, somebody stole stuff from grandfather. There's so many ideas. Oh my goodness. I would love to get started so we can figure out what's going to happen. Okay? So we're already thinking about kind of why grandfather is sick. I got a question for you. What else can little Willie do to help grandfather feel better now, though? What else can he do to try and feel better, to make grandfather feel better? Why don't you talk with your partner for a moment? What do you think little Willie could try next?
Maybe like work with stuff and also like maybe spend time with grandpa or you know matches probably have you done that
All right, All right, let's see what happens in Chapter 3 if little Willie can make Grandfather feel better. Chapter 3 is called Searchlight. Searchlight. It's easy to tell when it's winter in Wyoming. There's snow on everything. The trees, the houses, the roads, the fields, and even the people, if they stay outside long enough. It's not a dirty snow. It's a clean, soft snow that rests like a blanket over the entire state. The air is clear and crisp, and the rivers are all frozen. It's fun to be outdoors and see the snowflakes float down past the brim of your hat and hear the squeak of the fresh powder under your boots. Anyone making some text-to-self connections there? Reminds me of Minnesota. Winter in Wyoming can be the most beautiful time of the year, if you're ready for it. Little Willie was ready. He had chopped enough wood, they would not be cold. He had stocked enough food, they would not go hungry. He had asked Lester at the general store how much food Grandfather had bought last year. Then he had purchased the same amount. This would be more than enough, because Grandfather wasn't eating very much these days. The coming of snow, as early as October, also meant the coming of school. But little Willie didn't mind. He liked school. However, his teacher, Miss Williams, had told Grandfather once, "As far as I'm concerned, that boy of yours just asked too many questions." Grandfather had just laughed and said, "How's he going to learn if he don't ask?" Then, later, Grandfather had said to little Willie, "If your teacher don't know, you ask me. If I don't know, you ask the library. If the library don't know, then you've got yourself a really good question." Grandfather had taught little Willie a lot. But now little Willie was on his own. Each morning, he would get up and make a fire. Then he would make oatmeal mush for breakfast. He ate it, Searchlight ate it, Grandfather ate it. He would feed Grandfather a spoonful at a time. After breakfast, little Willie would hitch up Searchlight to the sled. It was an old wooden sled that Grandfather had bought from the Indians. It was so light that little Willie could pick it up with one hand, but it was strong and sturdy. Little Willie rode on the sled standing up, and Searchlight would pull him 5 miles across the snow-covered countryside to the schoolhouse, which was located on the outskirts of town. Searchlight loved the snow. She would wait patiently outside the schoolhouse all day long, and little Willie never missed a chance to run out between classes and play with his friends. After school, they would go into the town of Jackson and run errands. They would pick up supplies at Lester's general store, or go to the post office, or go to the bank. Little Willie had $50 in a savings account at the bank. Every month, Grandfather had deposited the money little Willie had earned working on the farm. "Don't thank me," Grandfather would say. "You earned it. You're a good little worker, and I'm proud of you." Grandfather wanted little Willie to go to college and become educated. All little Willie wanted to do was grow potatoes, but he respected his grandfather enough to do whatever he said. If there were no errands to run that day, Searchlight would just pull little Willie up and down Main Street. Little Willie loved to look at all the people, especially the city slickers, as Grandfather called them. Why, they didn't know a potato from a peanut, Grandfather said, and their hands were as pink and as soft as a baby's. You couldn't miss the city slickers. They were the ones who looked as if they were going to a wedding. At a little before 6 each day, little Willie would position his sled in front of the old church on Main Street. Today again he waited, eyes glued on the big church clock that loomed high overhead. Searchlight waited too, ears perked up, eyes alert, legs slightly bent, ready to spring forward. Bon! At the first stroke of 6, Searchlight lunged forward with such force that little Willie was almost thrown from the sled. Straight down Main Street they went, the sled's runners barely touching the snow. They were one big blur as they turned right onto North Road, and they were almost out of town before the church clock became silent again. "Go, Searchlight, go!" Little Willie's voice sang out across the snowy twilight. And did Searchlight go? She had run this race 100 times before, and she knew the whereabouts of every fallen tree and hidden gully. This enabled her to travel at tremendous speed, even though it was getting dark and more dangerous. Little Willie sucked in the cool night air and felt the sting of the wind against his face. It was a race, all right. A race against time. A race against themselves. A race they always won. The small building up ahead was Grandfather's farmhouse. When Searchlight saw it, she seemed to gather up every ounce of her remaining strength. She forged ahead with such speed that the sled seemed to lift off the ground and fly. They were so exhausted when they arrived at the house that neither of them noticed the horse tied up outside. Little Willie unhitched Searchlight, and then both of them tumbled over onto their backs in the snow and stared up at the moon. Searchlight had her head on one paw on Little Willie's chest and was licking the underside of his chin. Little Willie had a hold of Searchlight's ear, and he was grinning. The owner of the horse stood on the front porch and watched them, tapping his foot impatiently. And we'll continue chapter 4 in a bit, okay? So put your bookmarks in. Alright. Let's think through. Who do you think the owner of the horse is? And why do you think that? Who could the owner be? Is it Doc Smith?
No.
How do we know it's not Doc Smith?
She's a wicked.
How do we know? Ollie?
Because they, like, at the end, it says, like,
What was the word that kind of gave it away?
he.
It said his foot. Good, and we know Doc Smith is a girl. So it's not Doc Smith. Who could it be? You think it's his father? Maybe. Why do you think it could be his father?
Because I feel like he'd be a lot more strict than his grandfather, and like my theory was before, like I think that I actually haven't read the book, so if I'm right, I actually
Okay. Nathan? We haven't gotten there yet. We're only on chapter 3 so far. Amelia? Lester? Lester, maybe it's Lester, the guy who bought the potatoes. Maybe he's waiting patiently for something. Ooh. And Zach? All right, so let's look at inside our packets round page. At the chapter 3 page, it's about, not the setting, we did that one yesterday. Visualization, right? That's chapter 3's. All right. Visualization, okay? We're going to think about what it looked like when Little Willie and Searchlight were going through the town. Draw your visualization in the box below, then explain how this helps you better understand the story. So stop and think when he's going down Main Street. What's around? How does the street look? Is it curved? Is it straight? How does the sky look? Is it bright and sunny?
No.
Think through, what time of day was it? Give you a little bit of time to work on just a quick sketch. Does that need color? Remember, I'm giving you points, 4th grade friends, based on how much effort you are putting into this. Not if you get done always, right? But if I see that you kind of just drew like a stick person and we're done, am I going to give you good points? Okay. Think through what it's asking you to do on each page. All right, so my friends, while you're continuing to work, we're going to kind of start answering the questions too. What did you put in your visualizations? What might you have included? Lily, what did you include?
I included, like, the church that the clock and, like, the bell rang.
Good, the church. Maybe you got a big clock on it and a big bell. What else might you include? Rosie?
I did the church and the
Lester's store, so maybe stores along the side of it. Holly?
I did, like, the road, and then one said I did the church, and then I did a shop, and then I did the bank.
Yeah. What else do you need in here? What's the main part of the scene? What else do you need in your visualization? Alicia?
put some snow and stars.
Maybe some snow and stars, right? It's starting to get dark. It's twilight. It's 6 p.m. in winter. It starts to get dark. Who do you have in your picture? Adam?
I have Little Willie and Searchlight.
Little Willie and Searchlight. Good. And what are they doing? What did you include in it?
I put Willie on the sled and had Searchlight looking like he was.
Good, yeah. Little Willie with a sled and Searchlight maybe in front of it with maybe some rope, so it looks like it's being connected. Amelia?
I had, like, all the little people walking around.
Yeah, there's people walking around, right? It's downtown. It's Main Street. How does your road look? Is it straight or is it like windy? What does it look like? Ryan?
It's kind of, like, straight, and then there's the right turn where they go.
Yeah, it's kind of straight. Most main streets are long, right, and straight because that's where you want to go. That's the main part. So it's usually straighter. It might curve a little bit at the end, but where the shops are usually really straight. Let's think through, how does visualizations help us understand the story? When we visualize, what does that help us do? Why are visualizations as readers, seeing that movie in your head, why are these so important? Every reader, even Mrs. Wells, when I read for fun, I still visualize. Why do we do that as readers? Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Amelia? Yeah, we can understand. We can pretend we're there with little Willie on the sled. It helps us understand what the character's doing, to see it and to feel it, right? It's kind of like those connections. They help us relate and understand the story better if we can picture it. Good. All right. Remember, you can always come back and add more detail for your homework, okay? So, I'd like to go back into our book and we'll read our last chapter for today. Chapter 4. Okay? Alright. Ooh, chapter 4's title. The Reason. Ooh, what do you think that? Can you infer what this is going to be about? The reason grandfather's maybe sad or sick. Cool. Alright, let's read chapter 4, The Reason. And a few friends with their books, so you can come back and add more for homework, okay? Touching up those pages. Get over here! The voice cut through the air like the twang of a ricocheting bullet. Little Willie had never heard a voice like that before. Not on this farm. He couldn't move, but Searchlight sure could. The owner of the voice barely had time to step back into the house and close the door. Searchlight barked and snarled and jumped at the closed door. Then the door opened a crack. The man stood in the opening. He was holding a small derringer and pointing it at Searchlight. His hand was shaking. Let's kind of use some context clues. What do we think a derringer could be like? A small derringer, and he's pointing it at Searchlight. What do you think, Camille? Some kind of a gun, right? His hand is shaking, and he's pointing it at the dog. Good. Don't shoot! Little Willie yelled as he reached out and touched Searchlight gently on the back. The barking stopped. Who are you? Name's Clifford Snyder, state of Wyoming, the man said with authority. He opened the door a little farther. The man was dressed as if he was going to a wedding. What would Little Willie call him? A city slicker. He was short, with a small head and a thin, droopy mustache that reminded Little Willie of the last time he drank a glass of milk in a hurry. What do you want? Little Willie asked. Official business. Can't the old man inside talk? Not regular talk. We have a code. I can show you. As Little Willie reached for the door, Clifford Snyder again aimed the gun at Searchlight, who began to growl. Leave that thing outside, he demanded. She'll be all right if you put your gun away. No! Are you afraid of her? I'm not afraid. Dogs can always tell when someone's afraid of them. Just get in this house this minute, Clifford Snyder yelled. His face turned red. Little Willie left Searchlight outside, but Clifford Snyder wouldn't put away his gun until they were all the way into Grandfather's bedroom, and then he insisted that Little Willie shut the door. Grandfather's eyes were wide open and fixed on the ceiling. He looked much older and much more tired than he had this morning. You're no better than other folks, Clifford Snyder began as he lit up a long, thin cigar and blew smoke toward the ceiling. And anyway, it's the law, plain and simple. Little Willie didn't say anything. He was busy combing Grandfather's hair like he did every day when he got home. When he finished, he held up the mirror so Grandfather could see. I'm warning you, Clifford Snyder continued. If you don't pay, we have our ways. And it's all legal, all fair and legal. You're no better than other folks. Do we owe you some money, Mr. Snyder? Little Willie asked. Taxes, son. Taxes on this farm.
I knew it.
Your grandfather there hasn't been paying them. Little Willie was confused. Taxes? Grandfather had always paid every bill, and always on time. And Little Willie did the same. So what was this about taxes? Grandfather had never mentioned them before. There must be some mistake. Is it true? Little Willie asked Grandfather. But Grandfather didn't answer. Apparently, he had gotten worse during the day. He didn't move his hand or even his fingers. Ask him about the letters, piped up Clifford Snyder. What letters? Every year we send a letter, a tax bill, showing how much you owe. I've never seen one, insisted little Willie. Probably threw him out. Are you sure? Began little Willie, and then he remembered the strong box. He removed the boards, then lifted the heavy box onto the floor. He opened it and removed the papers. The papers he remembered seeing when he had looked for the money to rent the horse. Are these the letters? He asked. Clifford Snyder snatched the letters from little Willie's hand and examined them. Yep, sure are, he said. These go back over 10 years. He held up one of the letters. This here is the last one we sent. Little Willie looked at the paper. There were so many figures and columns and numbers that he couldn't make any sense out of what he was looking at. How much do we owe you, Mr. Snyder? Says right here, clear as a bell. The short man jabbed his finger at the bottom of the page. Little Willie's eyes popped open. $500? We owe you $500? Clifford Snyder nodded, rocking forward onto his toes, making himself taller. And if you don't pay, he said, I figure this farm here is just about worth... You can't take our farm away, little Willie screamed, and Searchlight began barking outside. Oh, yes, we can, Clifford Snyder said, smiling, exposing his yellow, tobacco-stained teeth. And that's the end. He kind of reminds us. Why is he reminding us of Judd? What's wrong? The tobacco. What else, Ryan?
He's kind of like, because he was just like snatching stuff out of Willie's hand.
Right, he's kind of grabbing stuff and really doesn't have manners, kind of like Judd. What else, Adam?
He's kind of mean. He has a gun, like Judd did.
He's kind of mean to and he has a gun, and he's mean to dogs, right? He doesn't like the dog. He's kind of mean to it. Good. Alasia? He's ruder than Judd? Worse than Judd, you think? No? All right. Hold on. All right. So what happened? Why is grandfather so sick?
Because he has to pay taxes and the farm's going away.
He has to pay taxes. You weren't. He has to pay taxes. If you don't pay your taxes, can the state come and take things from you?
Yeah.
They can. If you own any sort of property or like cars and stuff, you have to pay taxes on them. And if you don't pay the money to the state or the government, they can take it away. So Mr. Snyder is right. They can take the farm away. Okay? So grandfather, for some reason, hasn't been paying the taxes. How much do they owe? $500. Now, for some of us, that might not seem like a lot. For some of us, it is. To little Willie, who only has $50 in his savings account, does this seem like a lot of money?
Yes.
He has $50 after years and years of working for a grandfather, right? And now he has to find $500. Maddie?
In this cover, it kind of shows like them like going like out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh!
I see some flags, so maybe there's like a race.
I think
Maybe
he's going
some-
to race to earn money.
Maybe there'll be a race to try and earn money. Zane?
Yeah.
So every single property that you own has to be paid by taxes. Who pays for the school?
Who pays for the school? The church does. The church has to pay taxes for the school. Yep. Every building and everything has to have, it comes from somewhere. Yep. Okay. The church owns the church. So then they pay for the church, all the land here. The church has to, so they get money from like donations, right? From Sunday. That's why it's so important to give at Mass. And from when we do our fundraisers and stuff, that helps to pay so that we can have our school. Aiden? Almost, okay? All right, let's look at our next page. Let's look at the cause and effect. We're going to do this one together, fourth grade friends, okay? All right, cause and effect. When one thing happens, it's like if I go like this. Whoa.
Oh my God.
What was the cause of my water falling? What was the cause? Nathan? I pushed it, it fell, right? That was the effect. There was an effect after it hit the ground. My friends up here, did you catch it?
Yep.
What happened?
Right here.
It sprayed a little bit, okay? So in stories, things like this kind of happen. Things make other things happen. Let's look at the first one. We've got a cause. Searchlight was barking at Clifford when he wanted to come inside. What happened after Searchlight barked at Clifford? What was the effect of that? Ryan?
He pointed that gun at
Clifford pointed his gun at Searchlight. You also might say that Clifford ran inside, right? Remember how he ran inside as soon as Searchlight started barking? Right? All right, so that's our first effect. So that's something that happened after. Now we're going to think backwards. What made this next thing happen? What was the cause of it? What made it happen? Little Willie looked for the papers in the strong box. What was the cause that made Little Willie go looking for the papers? What made him? Adam?
Clifford told him that he needed to pay taxes.
Yeah.
They sent letters.
Clifford told Little Willie about the tax papers they sent. And then Little Willie went to look for them. Good, thinking backwards. Mr. Clifford, right? Or is it
Yeah.
Snyder Clifford? Yes, Mr. Clifford. You could say Snyder, too.
Clifford.
I can make this a little bigger. Is that better?
Yes.
When you're ready, the last one, you have to make your own cause and effect from the story. What happened in chapter 4? That was another one. I'm going to give you time to try and think on your own first. Can you think of something that caused an effect? Something else. Pause while you're working on that last one. What? Anyone think they've got a good cause and effect for something else? It can't be one of the two. What else you got? Lily?
The one that we got to pick.
Yep.
Grandfather felt bad and like a little bit of saying that he didn't pay it, so he didn't do like any.
Good. Grandfather felt bad about not paying the taxes. So the effect one then is grandfather did not show any hand signals today. Awesome. What else could you have said? Nathan? The church bell. That was chapter 3, but okay, so let's stick with that. The church bell rings. That's the cause. What's the effect? And Searchlight goes running. That's an awesome cause and effect going on. Monica?
Well, Mr. Santa was afraid of Searchlight, and the effect is Searchlight.
So Mr. Snyder is afraid of Searchlight. The effect is Searchlight stays outside. Nice. Adam? Yes. Okay. And last one, Brooke?
Cliff
Clifford?
goes inside and is scared of Searchlight because Searchlight is growling at him.
So Searchlight is growling, so Mr. Snyder is scared. I think you got him switched. Good. Okay. So if you didn't finish that up, that'll be part of your homework. I want us to look back at you have the next page in your packet, back a page, chapter 3 questions. It looks like this. And then flip a page, and you got chapter 4 on the back of the cause and effect page. You got those questions too. I'll give you about 3-4 minutes to get started on homework today.